Six figures worth of cards, all in the same family for 116 years. Here's the story. Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. Attic Find Friday. I love Attic Find Friday. I know you do too. And I've still got a bunch of these lined up for this fall and winter. Today's story comes to us again from Sports Collectors Daily. Great work by them, as always. This is the story of a grandfather who, when he was a kid, lived in southeastern Connecticut. The grandson of this grandfather emailed the story to Rich from Sports Collectors Daily. I'm going to share that story here. As always, I encourage you to go read the story. I'll try to remember to link it in the description of this video. I always leave out some details, but so this grandson and his grandfather both grew up in southeastern Connecticut. The grandfather, when he was a child in 1909, 1910, lived across the street from a general store in his small town in southeastern Connecticut. He was a huge sports fan, big baseball player, and he would stand, he and his brothers, he was one of 11 kids. He and his brothers and their friends would stand outside of the general store, and when adults would go in and buy cigarettes, he would ask them, he and his friends would ask the adults if they could have the cards out of the cigarette packs, which is so cool to think about. Like, I'm trying to imagine something similar from my childhood in the 80s and 90s, and I'm struggling with it. But just imagine you're standing outside of a store, and adults are going in and buying cigarettes, and the adults maybe don't want these baseball cards, and so you just ask them, hey, can I have these? And some of those adults are going to give them to you. And so you've got these cool baseball cards that you get for free, it sounds like. Now, the cards I'm featuring here today are actually American Caramel cards. So it's a little bit hard to figure out why he's talking about cigarette packs, because these cards came in caramel and they were typically distributed to children. But that's the story he told, so it's possible that his grandfather had a different portion of the collection that he talked about that we don't have any more details on. Just wanted to give that little general aside here, which I think is important because I know I'll get comments about, well, American Caramel cards weren't distributed in cigarette packs. I know they weren't. He stored all these cards in a cigar box. He went on to become a semi-pro baseball player himself through 2 world wars, raising 3 kids, and then he was a butcher as an adult. He kept these in the same cigar box and kept them in pretty decent condition, and we're going to show you what that condition looks like, for over 70 years. He didn't see them as an investment. He saw them as something he could share with his sons, his grandsons, his family. They were just something that was cool. Kind of like my Nomar Garciaparra cards. And maybe someday those will be valuable too, but probably not. That's okay. The grandson wrote that when he was a kid, his grandfather would take him to a Red Sox game. His grandfather was an avid Red Sox fan, and so was the grandson. Take him to Fenway Park once a year on a bus trip. And anytime he was over at the grandfather's house, his grandfather would let him look through that old baseball card collection. And these cards have been touched and played with, not played with like games, but handled by grandchildren and children for decades. This was in the early 1970s, so it had already been 60 years that he had owned these cards. In 1983, the grandfather was moving out of that house that he had lived in his entire life. And he told each of his grandchildren that they could pick one thing from the house to be gifted. This grandson was not interested in housewares or anything like that. He just wanted the baseball card collection. And if you think back to 1983, they probably didn't have tremendous value, and the grandfather gave them to him. Over the course of the next 42 years, this grandson, up until 2025, and remember, this article is from, I think, September of 2025, just a couple months ago. Over the course of 42 years, this grandson kept these cards, most of them in the same cigar box, in safe deposit boxes. He moved 4 or 5 times around the country, and he just kept moving them from safe deposit box to the safe deposit box. And then in 2025, he decided he was going to inventory them. For years, he thought the Ty Cobb, Cy Young, and Honus Wagner were the most valuable cards in there. He knew that those were in there, and he just always assumed that they were the most valuable. When he started inventorying them, though, he realized that the card with the name Jackson on it was Shoeless Joe Jackson. And he started realizing that this was a pretty darn valuable card. Some recent sales. An SGC 5 sold earlier this year, in February of 2025, for $293,000. A SGC 3 sold in 2021 for $66,000. If it were me and I was pulling out a long-time collection my grandfather had passed down to me, and I decided it was time to sell, I would be going to Collector Investor Auctions. They sponsor Attic Find Friday because I believe they are the best out there. The Collector's Auction House. If you are a collector, they are the best out there, owned by Jeremy Donson, the Texas Snowman, and Chris Sewell, Collector Investor Dealer, in that order. If you're looking to sell your collection or parts of it, contact them. CollectorInvestorAuctions.com. I have 9 cards in there right now. They end on Sunday. I'm very excited at how well they have already done for me with these 9 cards, even though there's still 2.5 days remaining. So he sent it off with the auction house. It got an SGC 3. It's currently estimated to go for $120,000 or more for a card that he didn't even realize had any value. And most of these cards that are at the auction house right now that are anticipated to go up for auction later this month into December are estimated to go for hundreds of dollars. There's also the Cy Young, which also got a 3 that's estimated to go for about $8,000. But this Shoeless Joe Jackson is stunning. It's great eye appeal, nice centering, and it got a 3. Imagine how many times this card had been handled. It was in a pack for who knows how long. Somebody opened that pack, pulled it out, gave it to a kid, and that kid handled it for who knows how long before putting it in a cigar box. And then for 60 years, it was handled, 75 years, it was handled between 1910-ish to 1983 by numerous kids, grandkids, cousins, and it still came out in pretty good condition. Has a tiny bit of staining along the top, it appears. Good centering. Corners are rounded, but not in an unappealing way. This is a beautiful card. So that's Attic Find Friday today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I have spent the last 2 weeks going into the office every single day almost. And it has really impaired my ability to do videos, as you might imagine. I do not go into the office again this month. I'm hoping to get out a video a day over the next 2.5 weeks, roughly. So let's say 16 or 17 days. Can I get 15 videos out? Probably not, just being honest, but that's my goal. I'm going to try. Over on Sports Card Clubhouse, Greg and I just put out a new podcast. Well, it'll be going out tomorrow morning about hobby drama. And is it important for us to cover it? I put out a podcast with Nick Andrews of Boston Card Hunter earlier this week. Really enjoyed that conversation with him. We had never talked before other than brief private messages on Instagram. We're doing a lot of really cool stuff over there. Sports Card Clubhouse, go check it out on YouTube or on wherever you get your podcasts. I'm really enjoying it. I hope Greg is too. Adam's behind the scenes doing a lot of really fun stuff. Adam of Splendid Sports. Stuff that we hope to roll out to you pretty soon. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great weekend. I will see you probably tomorrow, Saturday, and then Sunday for Clearing the Bases. See you all soon.